Welcome back, SethBling here. This video is going to contain some major The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild spoilers. I'm going to actually beat the game in this video, so seriously, if you don't want spoilers, please stop watching now. I told Nintendo that I was interested in speedrunning the new Zelda game, and they sent me an early copy of the Switch and The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. So for the last week or so, I have been playing this game about 12 hours a day, trying to figure out a speedrun route before the game even came out. The game, as of this video's release, is going to come out in about a day. So this is the culmination of what I found. And they designed the game so that you could, in fact, run right up to the final fight and fight the final boss. It's very hard if you don't know what you're doing. And so I actually played through the game normally, beat all the dungeons and everything so that I would have a pretty strong character so I could actually explore everything. But this video is going to show you a route, a speedrun route for this game that is, I think, will end up being about an hour and a half, probably shorter than that, actually. It is not an actual speedrun of the game, but it will contain the entire route, and that's why it's so long, an hour and a half. It's a little bit cobbled together, so there's some sort of different segments. Let me give you an overrun of the route. Now, for those of you completely unfamiliar with the game, again, some major spoilers, but basically you wake up on this plateau, and this guy comes up to you and has a parasail. He says he'll give it to you if you complete 4 shrines. So the first segment of the route is completing 4 shrines and getting the parasail from the old man. Then you parasail off of the plateau that you wake up on and basically run right up to Ganon's castle. There's a pillar on the side of the castle that lets you if you can climb it, it's kind of difficult to climb, but you can climb it and parasail into the castle. You can parasail right up to the door where Ganon is, but if you do that, you'll have nothing but starting gear and you will physically not be able to complete the game because your starting gear won't have enough durability. Because in this game, items like weapons and shields and bows all have durability. So, in order to get enough gear, the first time in this route that I go up that pillar and parasail into Hyrule Castle, I actually parasail into a lower part of the castle and I go to a guard room which has a bunch of goodies. It has a lot of weapons with relatively high durability and a lot of damage. They're basically end game weapons, and I sort of work my way up to better and better weapons so that I'll have enough to complete the game. Then I basically parasail out of Hyrule Castle, climb that pillar again, and parasail back into the boss fight, more or less. Then in the boss fight, there's 4 phases of mini bosses. If you complete the game normally, you don't have to fight those. And then there is the final boss, Calamity Ganon. And in order to kill him, it's pretty hard. It's a pretty long fight. But yeah, so you fight Calamity Ganon, and then there's the final phase, which is pretty easy. Although I actually, in this video, died trying to do it. But not exactly. Anyway, so that's the general overview of the route. So I'm going to commentate all of that. I'm also going to talk about my experiences with the game. I technically have a review copy of the Switch, so you can consider this my speedrunning review of the game as well. It's an hour and a half long. I'm going to talk over the whole thing. I don't know if I'll have enough to say the whole time, but hopefully I'll figure it out. So yeah, the game is kind of interesting because it's really not laid out like other Zelda games. It's meant to be open world. There's this kind of plateau segment at the beginning, which is not open. You have to do pretty specific things. But after that, you can really go anywhere you want. And then also another major difference is, like I said, weapons and everything, not armor, but weapons and shields all have durability. The bow is not a special key item that you get from a boss fight or a dungeon. You can pick up bows pretty much anywhere. Same with weapons. There is a Master Sword in the game. I'm not going to talk too much about that. It's pretty obvious that there would be one. But I'm going to try and spoil as few things as I can outside of what's in the speedrun, while still talking generally about those things. But so because everything has durability, they have to be plentiful. Weapons have to be plentiful and fairly easy to get. Otherwise, you run out of weapons and the game what do you do from there? Nothing. So that's sort of the vulnerability that lets us fight the final boss at the very beginning. The difficulty mainly comes from only having 3 hearts in the final fight, but otherwise, it's pretty easy to get lots of high-powered weapons. So you'll see that much later on, of course, but it's just this really interesting thing. I'm actually not a big fan of that part of the game. That's probably my least favorite part of the game. Like I said, I've been playing this game for 12 hours a day for the last week, and you can't do that if you don't like the game. I really like this game. The design is just pretty much spot on for almost everything, but the inventory management is a little lackluster, in my opinion. Anyway, so here I've grabbed this woodcutter axe, and the beginning of the game has a lot of unskippable cutscenes, but later on we start to be able to skip more and more cutscenes. So that's actually a really nice feature, which Nintendo usually is not very good about having cutscenes be skippable. So for speedrunning, that's very nice, because who wants to wait around forever during cutscenes? But yeah, so I grab this axe, and I come up here and kill a goblin that has a slightly better weapon, a sword. And actually, I think the route doesn't need that. I don't think you actually have to kill it. One interesting thing is, you'll see here, is I swing my axe. It's so heavy that you can actually knock items out of enemies' hands, which is kind of cool, actually. So I actually knocked the sword out of his hand here and just grab it. I don't need to kill him, because you don't really... There's some drops that he has, but I don't need him for the speedrun for sure. So I just wanted the sword. Although, like I said, I didn't actually end up using the sword in the route, so I will probably cut that in future runs. So, by the way, I do plan on speedrunning this a lot, and that probably, if you're watching this as it's coming out, as of release, I am probably live streaming right now, so maybe check twitch.tv/SethBling if you want to see it live. But I'm going to be doing that a lot. So here you activate this Sheikah Tower. This is sort of a critical event which activates a bunch of shrines across the land. There's a cutscene which can actually be skipped, which is nice. I think I forgot I could skip it for a little bit. There we go. Yeah, so you activate this tower, and then the old man comes and parasails in and says that he'll give you the parasail if you complete a shrine and get the treasure from the shrine. There's also a really nice view of the world from here. The game, I really love how the game visually treats you to seeing the whole world. You can... I mean, you've probably seen this already if you've followed the game at all, but you can see everything from anywhere almost. It's like if you climb to a high spot, you can see most of the world from pretty much any part of the world. And I don't even know how, like, it's kind of mind-boggling how big the world is. Like, it takes a long time to just run anywhere, and you can still see it all. And I haven't really played an open world game in a long time, or maybe ever even, but I'm really impressed with how well they designed the layout of the world so that you can kind of see everything. There's basically a valley in the middle where Hyrule Castle is, and like higher up things surrounding that, and so it just like really makes it easy to see everything. So here I am marking some waypoints on my map. This is not at all necessary for a speedrun, but I'm doing it just because I'm not 100% familiar with where everything is yet, and I thought it would make it a little bit easier. You'll see some rough edges like that around the speedrun. I'm not... I was mostly just trying to demonstrate the viability of going to Ganon and killing him. So this is basically that's what this whole video is about, is the viability of that and trying to get an idea of how long that would take. So here's the old man with the parasail. I skipped through all the text, so I guess I'll probably and I'll skip through most of the story too. So really, you will not see that much of the story in this game, in the speedrun at least, in this video, I guess. Yeah, so you get to see everything. He's like kind of points at the castle. They show you at the very beginning the castle, and they kind of taunt you to say, yeah, you should try and run up to it and see how it goes. Most other reviewers who tried to run up to it, I saw, were having a hard time. I don't think that many people were able to get into the Hyrule Castle. There's a lot of really high level things that shoot you if you try and go in through the front door. And so, like I said, I found this route around the pillar. I actually, so I worked with Sockfolder on all this. Sockfolder, if you don't know who he is probably the most famous speedrunning glitch hunter. He's found all kinds of really nice glitches or setups for glitches. He found a canonless skip, or basically a canonless setup that's reliable for Nintendo 64. Sorry, Super Mario 64. He found an arbitrary code execution exploit in the original Zelda game, like the very first one for NES, as well as some Castlevania, Symphony of the Night, I think. He's done a lot of stuff. He's found some Ocarina of Time skips or setups for those. He's really good at that sort of thing. So turns out he lives in the same city as me, and so he just kind of came over and we looked at the game together. Most of the time I spent playing this game without him, but he was pretty critical in helping me come up with this whole route. And figuring out some important things that I think make the speedrun valuable. So it's very, very useful having Sockfolder around. I want to give him a big thank you. So here we have the first shrine. These shrines are really cool. I actually really enjoy the shrines as a mechanic in this game. So the shrines have two purposes. Actually, the shrines on the plateau have three purposes. But the first two purposes that every shrine in the world has is that they act as teleport points. So you can teleport around to any shrine that you've been to, even if you haven't completed the shrine. But if you do complete the shrine, the second purpose is it gives you a spirit orb. And if you get 4 spirit orbs, you can trade that in for a permanent heart container or a permanent stamina upgrade. So it's sort of like a quarter heart, except it can also be used for stamina. So each shrine contains one of these. And then the third, as you're seeing here, is on the Great Plateau. Each shrine fell in the water. Each shrine gives you a rune, and these runes are very powerful effects that are necessary for the boss fight, for the Ganon boss fight. So here you can see this is magnesis. It lets you pick up metal objects and move them around. There's obviously some metal objects in this dungeon because it's intended to show you how to use magnesis, and but yeah, the puzzles are pretty fun in the shrines, and I really enjoy finding a shrine and just trying out the puzzle. Some of them have like combat. You like fight one of those little guardian thingies that was just shooting a laser at me, Guardian Scout. But yeah, here I got to the end of it, and I get my spirit orb, and I get to move on. And you don't have to complete the shrine to get the teleport point, though. I guess it's worth noting, since I'm talking about runes now. So you get 4 runes, or I guess 5 runes, because one of the shrines gives you 2 from the Great Plateau. And so one might ask, is it possible to get off the Great Plateau without doing the shrines and getting the parasail? And well, the answer is we don't really know. I think it's probably pretty hard, but we've found that sort of glitch in various games throughout history when you wouldn't expect to, so who knows whether we will. But there is a problem. If you skip all the shrines, you don't get any of these runes, and you need at least 2 of the runes in the Ganon fight. As far as I can tell, there's no way around it. And so if you don't do at least those 2 shrines, you're not going to be able to actually defeat the final boss. So whether or not there's a paraglider skip or a plateau escape or whatever you want to call it, I don't really know, but in a way it kind of almost doesn't matter. Plus the paraglider lets you move faster in a lot of situations. I haven't measured it, but I'm pretty sure you fly a lot faster than you can run in this game, and it uses a lot less stamina. So it's a speed thing too. I don't know. I don't know what the route will end up looking like in 5-10 years, but I'm sure it'll be way different than what I'm showing here. Anyway, so I completed the first shrine. The old man had originally said I needed 1 spirit orb in exchange for the parasail. Now he changed the deal to 4. So I have to go complete all the other shrines. Here I teleported back to the Temple of Rebirth, which is where you wake up at the very beginning of the game, just because it's a little bit faster to get where I need to go. So far the only items I've picked up are this axe and the Traveler's Sword, which again I don't even need. But I'm going to pick up some more items soon, and I'm going to spend some time cooking. So you'll see that in a moment. Uh, this part shows how the control of the game can be a little bit difficult. This is a problem I often have when I try and play Zelda games, is that Link is just kind of going around doing what he wants to do, despite what I think my controller is telling him to do. There, I just kind of climbed on some walls unintentionally. But yeah, that's kind of one of the cool things about this game, is you can just climb on anything. You can climb almost anywhere. That's not totally true, and there's some parts of the game that basically have mechanics that make it so even if you climb somewhere, you can't really go there. But yeah, so here I'm killing some bokoblins, and I just need to kill them so that they don't harass me while I try and cook. But just need to grab a torch and light the fire over here. Stand in this fire for a few moments, I think, too. I'm grabbing some food. Now, this is not strictly necessary, but I'm going to keep doing this. And yeah, just stood in the fire. I'm going to grab this food, the shrooms, because it helps a lot to make the fight safer and doesn't cost much time. It probably costs about 20 seconds to pick them up and cook them. Obviously, I don't have very optimized movement here. This whole thing, again, I put this all together in the last week, and so it's been, yeah, I did not have enough time to focus on optimizing every little thing. I was mostly focusing on just getting the whole route together. But yeah, so here I have to cook things. This is kind of required, as far as I can tell, to cook at least one set of peppers. The peppers provide cold resistance, and I'm about to travel to a cold area. So those are required. Also, the reason I'm cooking them in groups of 3 is that when you do get into the Ganon fight, a lot of enemies conveniently deal, a lot of the attacks that they do in the final boss fight conveniently do 2 3/4 hearts of damage, leaving you with 1/4 heart. And so if you have a bunch of 3 heart items for healing, you can use those to fully recover from those attacks with a single item. And it's a little bit faster to cook them 3 at a time. So that's, again, a safety strategy that you don't necessarily need to do, but until the route gets much more optimized, I think it's a very wise decision, because it's pretty easy to just accidentally get hit by something. You're fighting Ganons, various versions of Ganon, for like, I don't know, maybe a half an hour. At least I was. There's probably faster. I'm sure, much faster ways to do the fight than what I found. But I found some pretty safe strategies, which is important for at least an initial run. Here I'm taking damage, you can see, because it's so cold. And there's a little temperature gauge in the bottom right, and so you can see the gauge is in the blue part, the cold blue part. By eating the pepper, I move where the blue part of the gauge is. And so that now the temperature meter is not pointing at the blue thing, and so you can tell I'm not freezing anymore. If you hit those things, by the way, they will freeze you, and you are like stuck for a few seconds. So coming up here, there's like a bridge that's kind of broken. I have to grab this metal door and use it to put on basically complete the bridge. I got the door in place, but had some other problems. Again, sometimes what I think I'm telling the Link to do is not what I'm telling him to do. So I just fell in the water, and you can see, even though I had the cold resist, I'm taking damage from the cold water, because it's even colder than the air. So I did die there. That was pretty unfortunate. But I came back. Again, this is not an actual speedrun. This is just to show you what the route is. The door fell on me. I was having problems. But yeah. So so I got it in place, and okay, this time it's good. I successfully jumped. It's okay to actually take some damage there, because when you complete a shrine, you get healed. There, I let my stamina meter run out. That's very slow. The stamina meter is an interesting, well, not that interesting, but you have to make sure basically that you don't let it fully run out, and so you have to pay some attention to it, because if it fully runs out, you're basically walking very slowly for a little bit, and you have to wait for it to recharge before you can move quickly again. So it's pretty slow. For a speedrun, that's kind of bad. But yeah, so now I'm in this cold area. I'm kind of climbing this mountain where the shrine is. You can see in the minimap, I'm very close to that red marker that I placed where the shrine is. I probably didn't actually need to place the red marker. I knew where that one is. So here you can see I'm kind of jumping around as I climb. Yeah, you have to plan that sort of thing out ahead of time because you never know how much stamina you're going to have when you get to the top. If you run out of stamina, you cannot climb anymore, and so you'll fall down. And so it really sucks to get to the top of a cliff and then realize you don't have enough stamina. And you'll see that later on. I did mess up a couple times, I think, running out of stamina or something like that. But okay, so I'm entering the second shrine. This shrine has a rune called Cryonis. Cryonis lets you create these blocks of ice anywhere that there's water. And later in the game, there's some really cool shrines that have puzzles based around this. But it's also useful here and there just to like cross water quickly. It's a little bit difficult of a skill to be able to pull off, to be able to cross water without falling off the blocks of ice. But when you learn it a little bit, it's not too bad. Take a quick drink of water in the water dungeon. So yeah, this rune is also helpful. I don't know if it's required. I don't think it's required, but it's helpful in one of the phases of the Ganon fight as well. But I think you could skip this one if you theoretically found some way to do that. Here's one of those Guardian Scouts. He shoots at me. I only have a heart, and I ran out of stamina, and I'm like kind of panicking, but they only deal a quarter heart. I actually put this up the wrong way because I should have. It's like a kind of a lever. You can make it go up either way, and I made it go up the wrong way. But here I have completed the second dungeon. So yeah, I guess the route is more or less broken up into thirds. There's the first third is escaping the plateau. The second third is running to Hyrule Castle and getting all the gear you need, and then the last third is fighting Ganon. So I guess I'm about halfway through, more than halfway through the first segments, escaping the plateau. So this game, I'm going to speculate now a little bit about speedrunning for this game in terms of categories. So this category is, well, rushing to the boss and trying to kill him, which is usually called any percent, and it'll probably be called any percent in this game. Here I'm teleporting back to the Shrine of Resurrection just because it's a little bit faster to travel there. But so there's any percent. Some games have low percent, which is try and complete the game with as few items as possible, but that's not even very well defined in this game, where items are kind of I mean, they're fungible, they're breakable and everything. So I don't think low percent even makes sense. And also I complete the game with basically as few items as I can already during this route. So I don't know what low percent would be, but there's also usually some sort of all dungeons or all bosses category. I think all dungeons would make a lot of sense in this game. There are 4 dungeons, and you find that out relatively early on in the game. But there's 4 dungeons, and each one has, a boss and everything, and it feels very Zelda-like. And there is a Master Sword, so maybe it'd be all dungeons and Master Sword, and then kill Ganon. That would be a good route, I think, a good category. I think that would be a fun one. I actually would probably be interested in speedrunning that someday, but not at first. I like this. I lit the torch and then put it away. Oops. I'm gonna cook the remaining peppers just so I have that safety food for later on during the Ganon fight. But yeah, so all dungeons would be, I think, really fun, and it'd be very interesting to route. How do you get all the money that you need? So there's a lot of parts, dungeons or areas that need money. How do you get all the gear that you need? What's the fastest way to travel? All that stuff, obviously, and especially in a game that says open, because as Breath of the Wild, because you can actually do the dungeons in any order too. So it's not even clear to me after playing the game and playing all the dungeons. Here I ran out of stamina. You can see it was a problem. Very slowly sliding down to the bottom. But yeah, even having played the game, it's not clear to me whether or what order the dungeons would be done in. But that would be a fun category to route and to play. There's also usually something called 100% in most games, and that's getting all of the items or power-ups or completing all the levels or whatever. In this game, I'm not sure that there's like a really good definition for that. I think, in my opinion, the one that would be the most fun, and here you can see this is intentional. I'm running very low on stamina, but if you use your last of your stamina to jump, you can actually grab onto a ledge. And you do still run slowly because you ran out of stamina, but you can use that last little bit to get to the top if you're not going to quite make it. And so that was intentional there. But what I think would be a fun 100% type of category in this game would be all shrines. And so here we can see I'm entering the third shrine. This one is Stasis. Yeah. But yeah, so there's, I think, 120 shrines in the game. I'm not 100% sure that that's the number. In my main file, I think I've done like 35 or 40 or something. There's still a lot that I haven't seen. But it would take a long time. If obviously 120, if you take a minute to travel to a shrine and do the shrine, it would take 2 hours, right? And there's like a minute of loading time entering and leaving the shrines. Like, so it's going to take a long time, right? You have to travel to all these places. You have to actually complete the puzzle. You have to do all this stuff. So it would probably be a long category, more than, well, I would guess maybe around 10 to 15 hours. So that's probably the closest thing to 100% category that seems reasonable that I could think of. And I think it would be relatively fun to route. And there would, like, the shrines have the most potential for kind of glitches or sequence breaks or unintended routes, because everything else in the world is more about mess that up. Everything else in the world you can kind of climb anywhere, you can do whatever you want. It's more about finding the fastest way up a mountain or whatever than like glitching anything. But these shrines, the walls are all slick. You can't really climb the walls. And so, oh yeah, stasis is kind of cool. You can, I forgot to talk about it. You can freeze objects and you can actually hit them to give them momentum that's all kind of released when you release stasis. And so, yeah, that's what you saw there. Sorry, I forgot. I get a little caught up in what I'm talking about. Anyway, the puzzles, I think, probably have major sequence breaks, and so you could probably save a lot of time if you were willing to figure out how to do those. In fact, I think it'd be fun to just try and compete for speedrun times in individual shrines. I think there's probably a lot of potential there for some fun races. So I've completed 3 shrines so far. I don't actually have to teleport anywhere after this one, because I'm just going to walk to the next shrine. And yeah, there's a bit of climbing here. At night, there's these, what are they called? Stall bokoblins in this game, I think. So there were a couple of those guys that spawned out of the ground. At nighttime, you get enemies like that. I have some suboptimal movement here. I didn't remember where I could kind of jump down, because I need to descend the mountain, but I couldn't really remember where. I also ran out of stamina. Again, a lot of suboptimal movement in this run. It's not a run in this video. I'm going to get better at it over time. It was really interesting doing this on my own, too, before the game even came out. When I play Zelda games, I often will look up guides if I get stuck somewhere for a little while, just because I don't really want to, like, if it's something stupid and I'm just never going to think of it, sometimes that happens. But I couldn't do that with this game. In fact, that happened to me in a big way in the fire dungeon. Basically, of the 4 dungeons, there's a fire dungeon, and I could not for the life of me figure out how I was supposed to not even get into the dungeon, but get into the town where you're supposed to get to the dungeon from, because the air there is too hot, and you basically just get set on fire if you try and walk there. And so I finally figured it out, but there's it's like kind of insane how there's like one person you have to talk. Anyway, normally I would have just looked that sort of thing up, and it wouldn't have been any sort of grief. But I actually couldn't do the fire dungeon because of that until I finally figured that out. So there were some places I got caught up for a couple hours trying to complete the main storyline. Okay, so this is a guardian. This is whenever you see your first guardian, there's like a little cutscene of it waking up. These guys are very, very strong. These are the guys that are basically guarding Hyrule Castle. And so they will target you with these lasers, and if they target you for long enough, they'll shoot you with something that's, well, more than enough to kill you when you have 3 hearts. So luckily this one has a lot of stuff around it that'll block the laser. And when you block the laser, it sort of like loses its targeting and will not shoot you. So pretty easy to get around it in the beginning area here for obvious reasons. I have not been drinking enough water or eating enough food this week. I've been forgetting to eat and drink because I've just been playing this game. Okay, this dungeon has remote bombs. This is sort of a weird departure from the normal Zelda mechanics. Usually, bombs are an item you have to unlock later in the game. You have to get a bomb bag or something, and then you have to like find bombs. In this game, you get as many bombs as you want, and they're infinite. They're on a cooldown, and you have 2 kinds of bombs. There's square bombs and spherical bombs. And kind of interestingly, the 2 bombs are on a separate cooldown. So here, my spherical bomb's still on cooldown, so I just switched over to my square bomb, and that's kind of a weird thing. I think what happened is they originally implemented bombs as spheres, and then they're like, oh god, these are really hard to control because they just roll everywhere. Here I had some problems. The bombs deal a lot of damage to you. That killed me from very far away. I was barely in the radius. Anyway, so here I am again. I managed not to die that time. But yeah, I think what happened is they just like found it was too hard to set a spherical bomb anywhere you wanted, and so they added the cube bombs. But yeah, so you have 2 kinds of bombs, and you have as many of them as you want. They deal almost no damage, so they're mostly used for breaking open walls, that are cracked walls. Although there aren't that many of them in this game because most of the game is just this wide open terrain. You can also, well, they are required. Excuse me, they are required for the Ganon fight. One of the phases of the Ganon fight requires bombs. But they deal almost no damage, and like if you tried to go into the Ganon fight without equipping yourself and just using bombs, I'm not even sure they deal any damage to Ganon. But if they do, it's minuscule. It's like 10 damage, and there's 1,000 or 2,000 hit points or something, and it takes forever to. Anyway, I'm just trying to say it's not a good source of damage. So here I've finally completed all 4 shrines. The guy with the parasail comes up to you and says, okay, you can have the parasail, but you have to meet me over at the Temple of Time. So I have to walk over there. Now the Temple of Time it's like the ruins of the Temple of Time, I think from Ocarina of Time. Or it's supposed to be in that spirit at least. Here, now that I've exited the temple, all the shrines have some sort of thing like that just outside of them that once you get the rune, you can kind of play around with it a little bit. So there's that sort of thing. But yeah, the Temple of Time here has a goddess statue in it. And the goddess statues are where you trade in 4 spirit orbs for a heart container or stamina vessel. And, well, we did 4 shrines, so I have 4 spirit orbs, and I can do that. So I will add a stamina vessel. I'm not 100% sure that the stamina vessel is faster. There's a lot of things in this route that are just kind of my best guess. It seemed like the right thing to do as a speedrunner. Sort of like extra speed is the holy grail of speedrunning. So, but there are times in the Ganon fight that having extra stamina is very useful for evading things, and so I think it pays for itself both in terms of time saved while running places and also safety in the Ganon fight. But so yeah, it is a little bit slow though to get this. I don't know, it takes like 30 seconds or something because some of the animations are a little slow. But yeah, so I'll grab the stamina here and move on. I really like, in my main file, I like to build up as much stamina as I can. It's really fun being able to just like jump around everywhere as you're climbing all the cliffs, because that uses up a lot of stamina. But if you have a lot of stamina, then it's a lot easier to just climb large cliffs very quickly, which is nice. Okay, so the old man is on the roof of the Temple of Time. This is the last little bit of the Great Plateau. After I go up there, I will get the parasail and be able to glide off. There's also a bow up there, which I will grab because I need it very, very briefly during the Hyrule Castle. It's important that I have a bow, just for basically one shot. But this is the easiest way to grab that. So there's a cutscene here. It reveals who the old man is. I don't think that my footage is going to reveal that, so I'm not going to say anything about it. Maybe, I don't know, maybe his appearance will give something away. But anyway, again, trying to spoil as few things as I can. So after you get the parasail, there's a lot of running. Okay, I guess his visual is a little kind of obvious who he is. There's a lot of running, though. I tried to find the best route I could without running into enemies. Now, luckily, there's a lot of chests as well that have arrows outside of Hyrule Castle. There's 4 different special kinds of arrows, and you'll see all 4 of those in chests outside of Hyrule Castle. So that's very convenient. I don't know. I didn't explore that much around Hyrule Castle, but it was enough to find those. Later in the game, you can actually get this upgrade to your Sheikah Slate, which is that tablet thingy that Link has. And it lets you use a sensor to find nearby items or objects or enemies. And so you can, but you have to like, you have to say what you're looking for. So you can set it to chests and you'll find all the chests that are nearby. And so that was really useful when I was trying to explore the area in Hyrule Castle and around Hyrule Castle to find goodies. And so having a lot of arrows is very helpful, both for dealing damage and also for safety in some parts of the fight. Here was looking around which way is Hyrule Castle, and I was trying to put a marker on the map because I just wanted to have a reference point for later, but it's again not required. But yeah, this is the escape from the Great Plateau. This is where the game becomes open world and you can go anywhere you want, pretty much, more or less. And it's like very stuck to the spirit of that very well. There's a few areas that are kind of a little bit more restricted, and but you can really go a lot of places, and it's a huge map. I think it's bigger than Grand Theft Auto 5 by like a factor of 2 or something. Excuse me, is what I read. And anyway, so yeah, there's a lot of running here. So this is a little bit boring. I just have to basically look at my stamina meter. This guy shot me, and if I had dodged it, I could have actually grabbed the arrow from the ground, which would have been nice. Having any extra arrows is useful. It's kind of interesting. I actually will get all 4 kinds of special arrows before I get any regular arrows in this route. But yeah, so a lot of running, very slow. I'm generally going in the right direction. I don't think that I'm losing that much time here with my route. There's not really much you can do to speed yourself up other than just sprint wherever you can. There is one thing that might be worth looking into, which is, like I said, you parasail faster than you can run, I'm pretty sure, and it uses a lot less stamina. So finding little places where you can go up hills and parasail down seems like it could be a bit of a time saver here. Also, I don't know how many chests and goodies I'm missing. It might be nice to find some extra good weapons. This weapon is not that good. It's sort of like mid-tier weapon. It's a lot better than anything you find in the Great Plateau. But it's not really useful. Yeah, I wanted to pick up that arrow. It's not really useful in Hyrule Castle or the Ganon fight. Well, I will use it in Hyrule Castle, I think. Actually, I'm not even sure I do. We'll see later. I think I use it once. Anyway. No, I don't. Anyway. So I could probably skip that. But it is nice to have lower tier weapons that you can use to kill some of the enemies that you have to kill in Hyrule Castle, to use up the durability on those items. One of the major limiting factors of this run, and one of the reasons you need so many weapons, is that they run out of durability, and there's a lot of hit points that you have to burn through during the Ganon fight. And so that was a major factor in the route, and you'll see towards the end, I'm not 100% sure that this route gets you enough durability to kill all the bosses, but I'm pretty confident it does. It's very close if it doesn't. But because I had to cobble this together from a couple different kind of runs, I'm not 100% sure, and you'll see why that is later. That I'm not sure. But I think so, and if not, then it shouldn't be that hard to figure out how to do it. Maybe getting some more arrows would get you enough damage. Yeah, more running. There's some guardians. If you look, let's see, I think off to the right there's a guardian that I'm just barely staying out of the range of here. Hyrule, yeah, there's like a little blue glowy guardian there that you could just barely see for a moment. But I'm well out of the range of that right here. So Hyrule, one of the main features of central Hyrule, where the castle is there's a lot of guardians everywhere. There's like some towers. So at the beginning of the game, I activated the tower, and it just kind of shot up in the air. It gives you a map of the area, and so each region, there's, I don't know how many, maybe 10 or something. Each region has its own tower that gives you a map of the area, and usually they're like, each one has a unique challenge for that area. And so the tower here has a bunch of guardians surrounding it that you have to figure out how to avoid while getting up the tower. And there's like so many ways you can approach each of those challenges, and I really like how the game is designed to that effect. But that's not important for the speedrun here. Again, up here there's another guardian. So up here we'll see the first guardian that is on legs. All these other guardians have been sort of damaged, and they're stationary. The guardian that you're going to see in a moment up here can walk around. He is on the top right corner of the screen, and so I don't know to what degree he has range, like what his territory is. I haven't really done enough research. I managed to stay outside of his range in this video, but I was kind of scared that he was actually getting close to me. And he started walking towards me at various points, so I like veered away from him pretty hard. But yeah, it would be optimal to take a more direct route to these rocks over here, and we're going to start to see all the goodies that I'm going to pick up. So up here we're going to start to see the first things that I'll pick up that I will actually be using during the boss fight. So there's various chests with all those arrows and everything. So here's a shrine. If you wanted... there's one thing I considered doing, which I didn't do, which is you could activate this shrine to use as a teleport point. And then, because I go into Hyrule Castle twice, and I sort of have to like climb this pillar up to Hyrule Castle twice. And so if oh, here I'm getting targeted by this guardian. In a moment I will. Oh, my stomach's rumbling. I don't know if you could hear that. So yeah, I have to sort of like leave the castle and come back, and so I was thinking maybe it would be useful to teleport to that shrine and then climb from there, but I think it ends up being slower to do that. There's a lot of loading time every time you do that, and so I didn't do that. I got a little bit of bad luck here. It started raining, and when it's raining, it basically becomes impossible to climb things outside. Or very hard, anyway. I love how when Link kicks a chest without wearing shoes, that he kind of grabs his toe. It's really cute. There's a lot of little things like that in this game that are just very, very cute, very well done. But yeah, so I actually have some problems climbing various things around here, and you'll see that in a moment. So yeah, there's some stuff that could be faster. So there's a chest here under this like giant stone slab. You have to use stasis to get at it. Basically, you stasis the slab, hit it a few times to give it momentum, and then I think it just stopped raining. Maybe not. I don't know. I can't even climb this thing. Yeah, I think it just stopped raining, and that's why I'm able to do this now. Just like took embarrassingly long to get up there. But yeah, you give it momentum, like I was saying. I'm using a torch to do it, and you only have to do it a couple times. And then let it fly off and grab the chest. So shock arrows here. These are electricity arrows. So yeah, the 4 kinds of arrows are shock, ice, fire, and bomb. B-O-M-B. Bomb arrows are the best, but you can actually damage yourself with those pretty easily, so you have to be a little bit careful. I do that sometimes, especially in the Ganon fight. I used to shoot bombs sometimes, bomb arrows at sometimes at a phase of Ganon where you'd be too close and I would take damage. But I think the bomb arrows are in here. Is that right? No. Did I already grab him? Maybe I already grabbed him. I didn't. I wasn't paying that close of attention. I don't know. It doesn't really matter what's in what chest. I just know that the 4 chests have the 4 things. So here, this is the pillar that I've been talking about that I'm going to climb. Now, it's interesting to consider whether or not this was intended to be climbed. I'm not sure. Yeah, I kind of went up the wrong part anyway. I think it is. I think it was intentional that they at least left it in the game once they discovered that it was climbable intentionally. I think it would be pretty hard to like have playtesters. There's a little cutscene here that shows, you know, the clouds going crazy around Hyrule Castle and this Calamity Ganon, so menacing. I think it would be very hard to not playtest the game to the degree where you can discover that you can climb these pillars, but they're a little bit tricky to climb. They follow, like, how the physics worked here is like a little bit wonky, and it follows some kind of weird rules. But basically, if you just kind of try and run up it, you'll lose more and more velocity until you start sliding backwards, then you slide backwards really far. And so the trick to climbing this is all about resetting your velocity and resetting your downward velocity. And so you can see, like, at various points I'll like touch something and my foot will stumble a little bit, and that actually resets my velocity. And so it's just like really weird mechanic that is kind of doesn't seem really intentional, but it all kind of works together to allow you to get up it. Anytime you can get that like little climbing animation where Link sort of like climbs over a little ledge, that's really good too. That lets you start running really fast immediately. I haven't figured out quite the best way to do this, but obviously it's a little bit suboptimal how I'm doing this, but I'm getting better at it. It's sort of an art, and I'm learning over time. You can actually jump off a little bit earlier than I did in this video. You can actually jump off around here for where you need to go, but you'll get a good view of Hyrule Castle because I went all the way to the top. And so yeah, you can kind of parasail anywhere you want within the castle, or around the outside of the castle anyway. But I'm going to a very specific place which has a bunch of weapons that I will find useful. I also think that there's probably an alternation of this, or alternative route here, where I'm going to kind of get a single, or a sword and a bow a little bit later on after I climb the pillar the second time. And I think I could speed things. Oh, the game just like froze strangely. I hadn't really seen that before. The game just freezing there, like ever while playing this. I hadn't seen that, so I don't know what was up with that. That was not the video glitching out. But yeah, I think maybe doing that other part first might save a little bit of time because there's a little bit less climbing involved that way. So I'll probably change the route to that at some point when I start doing runs. Well, I'm probably doing runs right now, so there's the one time I need the bow that I picked up earlier. But yeah, I actually run up here and grab another bow that's a little bit better, and I will actually get another bow later on before I really need a bow. But yeah, I also get a Knight's Broadsword, which is better than the weapon I picked up earlier. So I really don't need that weapon either. So I pick up a couple unnecessary weapons in this route. So I will cut those as well. Yeah, so I get a nice... Oh, that was Ancient Arrow. So I actually do need... I do need this bow a little bit longer because I have to shoot something else. So I was wrong. Ancient Arrows are actually the 5th kind of special arrow. I tricked you. You thought it was 4, but it's actually 5. Here I kind of messed up being stealthy. And my route is that I want to sneak up on this guy and strike and like hit him. And so because of that I died, but... So anyway, we'll just kind of fast forward to after I loaded the game and came back here. Here's what it's supposed to look like. You sneak up on him. Sneak strike deals a lot of damage. It's like, I don't know how much, but like 8 times the normal amount of damage. It's like getting in 8 hits with your weapon. So here I get to upgrade to a much, much better weapon. Yeah, so this is what I'm talking about, where you can sort of leverage your way up by slowly grabbing better and better weapons. Okay, I screwed up that throw. As long as you can avoid taking hits, you can really, I mean, you can get a lot of power, attack power in this game. So, grab that stuff, get another arrow that was in that crate. Here I use a bomb arrow to try and deal some damage to these lizard guys, and there's some actually bomb barrels, and that's why that explosion was so big. And so... I ran out of stamina there, which was a little bit unfortunate. This guy blocked me with his shield. I had some problems with these guys. Actually, I had a lot of problems with these guys. Normally, I don't have that much of a problem. I'm trying to kill them or anything. This guy almost died. He like dodged out in the last second, and I would have killed him, I think, if I had hit him there. And then he like sticks his really long tongue out. You actually have a really good view of that. And then I died again to them. And then I died trying to sneak up on this guy again. And then I died again. I had some problems trying to get this recording. Anyway, eventually... Oh, that was a weird... I've never seen that before either. I kind of randomly got a sneak strike on this guy. And I'm not sure how. I think it's because I kind of loaded the game and I was in the middle of those two guys. Or something like that. And so he wasn't quite alerted. So there's some shenanigans. Maybe there's strategies where you can save and load in order to get sneak strikes on enemies. Sort of like save behind them and then reload the game. Anyway, so grab a couple of powerful weapons. I didn't actually need to go in this room. There's like an expensive item in there, but you don't need it for the speedrun. It doesn't do anything. It's like a crafting item or something. I'm not actually sure what it does. But here you can sometimes sneak up on this big horned monster guy if you just drop down here and then sneak again, but I did not successfully do that. Anyway, I blocked his attack, and here you can see a flurry rush. So this is an ability that's really important, and I will need to be doing it a lot during the Ganon fight. Basically, if you dodge an attack by backflipping or side hopping at just the right time, you get a bunch of attacks in for free. And it's very useful for taking on high-level enemies without having a lot of hearts. But it's also pretty skill-intensive. There's not a big window for most attacks for when you can actually perform that attack. I had some problems with climbing physics here. This was a little embarrassing. I like kind of got onto the thing and then fell. Ugh. I actually got pretty frustrated. You have to just wait. That's the worst thing. You just have to wait. But I'm not done collecting all the goodies in this room. There's still a couple more things. There's a bow and a weapon up here. I attack these crates. Sometimes I found that sometimes they have arrows, sometimes they don't. So I'm not sure if it's random or if I just am missing something and maybe the arrow went off flying somewhere I didn't see here. I don't really know what happened, but the left chest here just contains 100 rupees, so I don't bother getting it. But here's some more bomb arrows and falcon bow. I'll actually get a better bow than this before I end up needing, and I didn't need to pick up the rusty halberd, before I end up needing to shoot anything. But yeah, and then in here, there's a really good shield. And so I picked this up and I will equip that too. The shield is actually very nice to have. Honestly, I don't really know what the defense rating on the shield does. It might be like the number of hits it can take before breaking, but it seems like if you block with the shield, it just blocks. and it doesn't like block a certain amount of damage. So I really am not sure what the deal is with the defense rating on the shield. But anyway, that has a high defense rating, and having a lot of the ability to block attacks is pretty important for the boss fight, and also for fighting those big monsters. So here I've collected all the things I want from this area. I'm trying to use up the durability on the Knight's Halberd because I'm not going to end up using it in the fight. It's like kind of a weak weapon. And so here I kind of go around. I could have actually sneaked around that to the right a little bit quicker than that. But yeah, I'm coming back out of the castle. Since I'm so low, it would be pretty slow to try and climb up, and also there's a lot of guardians in the castle that will shoot you. And so I don't know if there's a faster route by just staying in the castle and trying to climb up the walls, but I did know that you could climb up the pillars, so that's what I just did. And so yeah, I don't know if this is the fastest way back up. I think if you get good at climbing the pillar, it's like pretty quick to get up relative to climbing, because if you think about it, I'm kind of okay, not right now, but when I am moving upwards, I'm moving up faster, slightly faster than I could climb. So it seems pretty reasonable to me that this is actually the fastest way to get back up to the top. So there is another sword and another bow that I'll get up once I get up to the top of this, and then I will make my way up into the room that houses Ganon, and you'll get to see the final series of fights. Yeah, so I posted a video a couple days ago showing this ascent up the pillar. I've gotten a little bit better since then, but I still have room for improvement. I don't know what I was doing trying to climb this part, because this part is not as easy to climb as the part a little bit to the left. So I eventually realized that I was being a little bit silly. Because there's like this like nice little divot here, this like little, I don't know, canyon, I guess, that you can climb up, and it makes it easy. And then you want to kind of run along this slanted line thingy. I'm sure I will eventually, or somebody will eventually figure out a good route up this that is optimal and fast. And there's definitely like how good you are, how skilled you are at this is going to affect how quickly you can climb. But I do think that this will be in the speedrun for a long time. It's just such a fast way to get in, fast and safe way to get into the castle. But we'll see. Maybe somebody else will come up with a faster way to get up where you need to go. But I got up to the top again the second time. There's this like little guardian corpse at the top. I saved here because I have many times just kind of tried to walk up to the top of this and fallen straight off, and it kind of sucks when that happens. So anyway, so I got up to the top of that, and I'm parasailing down into a room that I think is called like Zelda's study or something like that, Zelda's chambers, something like that. And there is a dude there with a really nice sword, and he's guarding a really nice bow. So I'm just going to kind of parasail right in and take him out. I'm going to use the flurry of blows a lot because it's very safe. The flurry of blows, again, that's what you get when you backflip at just the right time, like that. You can be holding out your shield when you... somehow I missed the first attack in that flurry, which is very strange. It's very unusual. When you have your shield out, you basically can't take damage from these guys. So it's possible to take damage while you're backflipping, but it's pretty safe to fight this guy by doing this. Oh yeah, this guy, he like takes forever to do this downstroke, and you can hit him a bunch. It's kind of random what attacks he does, I think. I haven't found a way to manipulate that yet. You can also get in a couple hits in between his attacks, but you have to be careful because if he steps on you with his foot, you actually die. So I threw away my spear there, I think, just so I could pick up this Edge of Duality, which is a pretty nice weapon. It's got a lot of durability. Lets me do a lot of total damage, which is important. And then here I pick up Royal Guard's bow, which is a very good bow. 50 damage on a bow is one of the best bows in the game. So there you go. So then I'm flying out, or running up here. Guardians are targeting me, but I don't really care because I'm running into this room in the tower. So this part's a little bit slow, and this is why I was saying that I would probably want to move the Zelda's study part, or Zelda's room, whatever, this whole segment a little bit earlier, because from here you can actually parasail down into where the guard's room was with all those other weapons. And so if you're on your first pass you did this, then you could just yeah. But if you did that, then you would need that sword that I said I didn't use. So I guess that's a reason to get the sword. So I guess I probably will get that sword actually in future runs. Yeah, so I had some problems climbing this thing. This thing was not really meant to be climbed, I don't think. Like, there's a little ledge up here that looks like you should be able to rest on it. It's a little bit small, but if you get right on the corner, you can do it, but I didn't manage to quite get where I wanted to get, and so I kind of slid off. And you just have to go back to the bottom and recoup your stamina and try again. And I think this took me 3 tries or something. So this was also a little slow. So when you see the whole time of the video, think of this sort of thing in terms of how much time can be cut off. But yeah. But yeah, you can get up there. If you're on the corner, you can rest on the little ledge. I think maybe there's something to be done by like holding forward a little bit while you're trying to rest there, so that you can, if you slip, you won't fall all the way down, that sort of thing. Anyway, so from here I go up to the top, and I can parasail right into the Ganon fight. So the Ganon fight is, man, it's gonna take some practice. Like I said, it requires a lot of those flurry of blows. In fact, several phases you cannot deal damage to Ganon really without getting a flurry. Or anyway, it's very slow if you want to, or it uses up a lot of durability, that sort of thing. So there's a lot of attacks that you have to parry with flurry of blows, and if you miss, you probably die at some points and stuff like that. But we'll get to that a little bit later. Before you have to do any of that, there are 3. So there's the way the Ganon fight works is there's 4 mini bosses, and if you do the regular dungeons in this game, each dungeon has one of these mini bosses at the end of it. And if you do the dungeons, then you don't have to fight these bosses here because you fight them there, and they're actually a little bit easier when they're in the dungeon. They have less hit points, that sort of thing. So. But yeah, so there's four phases. There's Wind Blight, Water Blight, Fire Blight, and Thunder Blight Ganon. So what you're actually seeing here, this is, it looks like it's a continuation of the same run, but it's actually a different file. But it has the same items. So I wanted to see basically how many items were left over after I fought all these phases of Ganon. You'll see a lot of items break as I'm doing this. So I'll only be left with a couple weapons, that is, after I'm done. Now what I'm doing here is a very safe strategy for fighting Wind Blight Ganon. Basically, you have to wait for him to shoot 4 times with his little laser gun, and then you can just fly up on him, hit him in the head, and then your like ground pound stuns him, and you can hit him a bunch more times. So it's very safe. I don't know if it's fast or if there's a faster way to do it. There almost certainly is. For anything I'm doing in this run, there's probably a faster way to do it. You can start running and parasailing through the air faster for this part too, because the lasers have really bad aim. You'll also notice that I sheathe my sword in between attacks. This is actually a little technique that lets you get in more hits faster. If you run forward and then press the attack button, you do like this quick draw attack, and it's slightly faster than just continuing your attacks after you do another set of 4 attacks. So that's a little speed tech that I found. So here I think my claymore, there was a message that said it was damaged. It's a little dangerous to attack with a damaged weapon, because if I hit Ganon with the first attack and then it breaks, there's no ground pound, and so he won't get stunned. So sometimes he can attack you when you're right up and next to him, and so it's a little bit dangerous. So I switched to a different weapon here. But yeah, actually, when I did another run, I found I had more items than this, so more weapons than this. So I actually think that the number of or the amount of durability or number of weapons I have at the end of this whole set of fights is maybe not as many as I should. But yeah, anyway, so each of these bosses sort of has two phases. These mini bosses, the Blight Ganons, has two phases. So there's a first phase where they're pretty easy. In the second phase, they gain some other mechanic or something like that. In the Blight Ganon phase, he gets these 4 little helper guys surrounding him, and most of the time they don't really do that much. I think he like I killed one or 2 there. I think he just recovers them every time he does an attack, so it doesn't really matter. But they will every now and then there's an attack where there's just like a billion shots bouncing around everywhere, and I hide for the yeah, I think it's this one. You can see the light bouncing around the room as it's happening. Yeah, here you go. And you just don't want to be out in, like, you don't want to be visible when that happens. If you have line of sight to any of those things, you're just gonna get hit. Like, it's pretty bad. So I hide during those. So basically, I don't want that attack to happen. Any other attack than that, I can get some hits in. So that one's like this hurricane shot sort of thing. That one's nice because it has really no chance of hitting you. You block it. It's sort of interesting because all these like Blight Ganons have the same AI that they have in their like dungeon, and I think their AI was programmed for the dungeon, but this room has a different layout than most of the dungeons. So not sure if I made it in time here. Okay, if you jump off and he sort of like becomes this blue ball of light, it can be embarrassing. You can miss the attack. But yeah, the AIs sometimes are not the best at dealing with this room's layout. And so it makes some of these phases a lot easier to deal damage, even though they have more hit points. So this guy, I again have a very safe strategy where I wait for him to throw a spear at me and go attack him. Now, if you do this ground pound thing while he's in the middle of an attack animation, it will not knock him down like this. So that's why I'm waiting until the attack animation, before I'm jumping off, rather than trying to jump off and interrupt the attack animation. So that pillar luckily blocked the shot. But again, during a lot of these fights, the Blight Ganon fights, most of the attacks will do 2 3/4 hearts. So I will actually survive the attacks, and I have healing items that I can use. That food that I cooked up earlier will heal 3 hearts. So I can actually withstand attacks. It's a little bit slow because, you know, I probably miss getting a hit in, and I have to open the menu, and I had to cook the food earlier, but, you know, it's not a big deal to get hit by some of these attacks. There are some attacks that will also just outright kill you, though, at 3 hearts. Yeah, Water Blight Ganon, the first phase is pretty straightforward. The second phase, I don't have a very good strategy for. I think there probably is one, but I didn't really figure out anything better than what you'll see. But yeah, basically when they get to half health, it triggers the second phase. So yeah, there's a little animation. In the second phase, Water Blight Ganon starts throwing ice cubes at you, and this is what I was talking about where Cryonis is useful. Cryonis can actually just be used to destroy those blocks, and I didn't actually figure this out during my first playthrough when I was actually fighting this guy in the water dungeon. Sockfolder figured it out when he was over here playing. But yeah, so I will just pull out my ice cube now, or melter, whatever thingy. So then you have to shoot him in the eye, and that sort of stuns him. And then after he throws, while he's recovering from his throw, if you hit him in the eye again, that knocks him down. And so that's what lets me do these melee attacks on him. It can be pretty easy to miss though. And there's a problem. And this is why I'm saying I don't know if my route's very good, or my strategy here is very good. Yeah, as he gets more damage, he starts throwing more ice cubes at you. But they're pretty easy to take out. They really have no chance of damaging you. So if you stun him while he's where he is right now, he gets knocked down onto the top area there, and I just can't run there in time to damage him. So it's kind of annoying when that happens, but it's not a huge deal. I just have to wait for the next phase. It's slow. Yeah, there's probably some strategy where I can figure out how to get up there and hit him. So I have some ancient arrows, and the ancient arrows are actually really good against these Blight Ganons. The ancient arrows will instantly stun and knock down any of the Ganon phases if you hit them. And so I'll use that in Fire Blight Ganon. You'll see that there. So it's possible that when I see Water Blight Ganon flying up there, I should just be using the ancient arrow and trying to stun him that way. Here I just used the bomb arrows to finish him off because he didn't have that much health. Fire Blight Ganon is pretty straightforward if you have a bow and a bunch of arrows. You can just basically hit him twice in the head in a row anytime you want, and it will knock him down so you can hit him. But since I have these ancient arrows, I figured why not just use those. Since he's always accessible, it's pretty easy to use the ancient arrows. Sometimes I will miss the shots with the... I shot that one too early, so it didn't actually hit him. But I actually was able to recover the arrow, I think. Anyway. So this makes this fight really easy. Here I don't think I need to even hit it with an arrow, but maybe I do anyway. No, I don't. Okay. Yeah, just one attack gets him down to half health, and then he does his little animation. In the second phase, when I was fighting this guy, Sock Folder was over, and we couldn't really figure out how to damage him for a while. But then we realized he sort of like has this suck-in thingy, and so if you just put a bomb on the ground, he sucks in the bomb, and it knocks him out of invulnerability. And then he behaves exactly like the first phase again. So very easy fight, Fire Blight Ganon. So this pretty soon here will conclude the first three Blight Ganon fights, and those are all pretty easy. I usually don't. I've practiced these all, and I usually don't mess those up. It's possible to, but you can get some bad patterns too, and it can kind of suck. But coming next is going to be Thunder Blight Ganon, and he is hard, especially at 3 hearts. So Thunder Blight Ganon has a shield, so you can't just shoot him with arrows. I can't use these ancient arrows on him. Because he just blocks it with his shield. The only way to damage him, in fact, you can't even run up to him and just hit him with a melee attack. The only way to damage him is to either hit him a bunch of times with a melee attack to knock away his shield, that uses a lot of durability on the item, on the weapon, or to do this Flurry Rush. And so in the first of the 2 phases, that's not too hard. He can't really damage you as long as you have your shield out. He can a little bit. There's sort of like... If he's below 3/4 health, he can do a spin attack where he can damage you if you backflip at the wrong time. But if you have your shield out, generally he can't really damage you very well. He's also throws these lightning balls that are just comically easy to dodge. But after I get him at half health, he charges himself with electricity, and if he hits you while he's charged with electricity, it will deal lethal damage, whether you block it with your shield or not. And so there's really basically no room for error during the second phase of this fight. And so this is going to be a big run killer, I think. I'm getting better at doing the flurry of blows, but even still, I've only beat Thunder Blight Ganon in this room a handful of times. It's very difficult, and it sucks because he's right at the end of the boss rush of the 4 mini bosses, and so even if you want, like, if I died here, it's here because he wanted to do a second attack, and if I didn't get the flurry, he would have probably hit me. If you want to do practice on this guy, you have to beat all the other 3 bosses every time, and if you die, you just have to like beat the other 3 bosses, which takes like 12 minutes or something for using my strats. So it's very slow. So I actually spent like 3.5 hours the other day creating a new file and getting to the lightning dungeon, whatever, where he's the boss, just so that I would have a file where I could practice against him. And it's a little bit different because he has half as much life or something. I think it's half as much. And the layout of the room's a little bit different, but it helped a lot in terms of learning the timing for how... So here I'm using my best weapon, the weapon that'll deal the most damage, because I just want... This is the most dangerous part of the run, in my opinion. So I just
want to do whatever I can to get through as quickly as possible. So here he knocks down a bunch of these like metal things and starts shooting lightning into them. So you have to pick one of them up with magnesis and hit him with it. And if you don't have magnesis, I just took damage. But luckily he's not charged with lightning at the moment. If he was charged with lightning, you'll see there's an animation where he charges himself. That's the animation. So now he's charged with lightning. So if he had hit me there, I would have just died. Yeah, this fight is quite challenging, and it's going to be the source of a lot of grief. Sometimes he'll do this. It's pretty rare, but you just kind of run to the side and it's fine. It's not hard to dodge at all. But yeah, it's really lucky when he loses the charge. Like right there, he doesn't have a charge. So if he had hit me, it would have been fine because my shield would have blocked all the damage. But again, he gets it. But I deal damage fast enough, and also the double backflip there was good enough to get the flurry and kill him. So in that run, but again, that run was not the same as the run you've been seeing. That was a separate run that I spliced in. So I sort of spliced it. Okay, so here, this is, you're going to notice I'm wearing completely different. Oh, sorry. Okay, right. Hold on, I went to pause. Okay, so I kind of made a mistake. Sorry about that. I tried to fight Calamity Ganon, and you can see I died there. So, okay, now I am starting. So this is obviously very different, right? I'm wearing different gear. I have this weird thing surrounding me. I have the Master Sword in my hand. That's what the Master Sword looks like. And I realized I shouldn't really be attacking with the Master Sword. So here's the thing. I can't really get through that fight reliably. The set of 4 fights. And so here I'm using my main file. So I have a bunch of gear from my main file. Now, very helpfully, the game gives you a bunch of gear in this room. There is just like a bunch of items sitting on the ground. Specifically, there are 3 weapons. There's in this game there are 3 kinds of weapons. There's spears, swords, and like big swords or clubs or axes. They have different kinds of animations and attack speeds. So it gives you one of each weapon. So, okay, let's talk about this. We've got a little while since this fight takes a while. So here I was just running around the room picking up all the weapons. But, okay, this is my main file. So I have a lot of hearts. I've got this defensive ability that's going to protect me. But the purpose of this is to show you that there is enough durability remaining on the weapons that I had left over that you could, if you avoid taking damage completely, you could still kill Calamity Ganon. And so, mostly I'll actually be able to avoid damage here, you'll see, like, just by dodging and doing flurry of blows and that sort of thing. So here I dodge that attack and I'm doing a flurry rush. Flurry rush, that's what it's called. And I'm using the weapons that I found on the ground here. So by the end of this, I will still have weapons that I found on the ground here. Now, because I've completed all the dungeons, Calamity Ganon starts at half health. So the fact that I still have items left over, weapons left over after I've killed him, doesn't necessarily mean that I have enough to complete the game, because normally he would be at full health if you hadn't cheated like me and completed all the dungeons. So the moral of the story is, I'm not 100% sure that the durability remaining on my weapons is enough to defeat Calamity Ganon. And I'm just basically, I only had a week, guys. I was trying my best to learn this stuff and figure out how to do it well, but I'm not good enough that I can get through the 4 Ganon fights, Blight Ganon fights reliably, and so I had to do this to try and test and make sure that I would have enough durability on my weapons. So I think you get about 3/5 of his health in terms of weapons that just spawn in the room, and so I'm pretty sure that with the number of arrows I had left, and there were like maybe 2.5 or 3 weapons that I had left, I'm pretty sure that's enough that you can complete the fight. If these 3 weapons do 3/5, then 2 weapons should do 2/5 maybe. Plus you get arrows, and you can use those to kill Calamity Ganon. But, so anyway, with that out of the way, you can see I'm only trying to deal damage with him with this Flurry Rush and using the weapons in the room. You can actually shoot at him while he's on the walls, and that's kind of useful. But what you should really be taking away from this fight is what are his attacks that he does, what are the attacks that I can counter and deal damage with, and what are the riskiest attacks to deal with. So in this case, all these attacks where he uses his giant fire cleaver are probably the easiest ways for me to deal damage to him with the Flurry Rush. And Flurry Rush is going to become very important when he gets down to a quarter health, because it will actually be basically the only way to deal damage to him, as you'll see. So up until then, I can still hit him whenever I want, but after a quarter health, he doesn't really take damage unless you Flurry Rush him, which is pretty brutal. But anyway, so this fireball right here is probably the hardest attack of his to avoid. My best strategy that I can find is to go to one corner of the room and then just run to the side. I tried to mimic the amount of stamina I would have in the real file, because I have obviously extra stamina in this file. But that fireball has a giant radius. You could see it almost hit me, even though I ran all the way across the room. It also kind of tracks you. It's like a guided missile sort of thing. So that is probably the most dangerous attack you can do, is that fireball. A lot of this stuff you can block. These attacks that he's doing with his cleaver, you can actually block those, and they kind of create these trails of fire sometimes if you don't Flurry Rush. They create these trails of fire, and you can still get lit on fire, but it's not guaranteed, even if you miss the Flurry Rush, that you'll get hit. And in fact, a lot of them you can dodge such that you won't get hit by either the fire or the attack. But again, I don't really have any practice doing this on a real like speedrun type file. A lot of these attacks are very easy to dodge. So you can see he's got this orange glow, and this orange glow is invulnerability. Again, the only way to get through that orange glow is to Flurry Rush him. When he shoots a little blaster thingy, you actually anytime he makes an attack, you can see he blinks for a moment right there. You can see his orange glow kind of goes away for a moment. It's very quick. There's only a few frames, but he does lose invulnerability during that. So every time he attacks, you technically can damage him. But most of the time that, he attacks, he's hitting you, right? Like maybe during the fireball, you have a chance to shoot him with an arrow or something. You have to be really tight on the timing though still, because the arrow takes time to travel through the air and whatever. So you can actually use that when he's firing his blaster on the ground. It's pretty easy to hit him. Like you'll see here, if you look at the health bar, you'll see. I don't think it happened there, but probably on this attack. Yeah, there a little bit of his health got taken away. So I was able to hit him once with the sword that I have. There's this convenient little beep sound. I actually didn't get hit by that attack, by the way, even though it would have. If my orange shield thingy that's surrounding me blocked it, it would have made there would have been an animation, but it didn't. So I actually didn't get hit by that attack, even though it looked like I did. Yeah. So basically, this whole fight is just about not taking damage and getting Flurry Rushes, and that's all you have to do. But a lot easier said than done. But I'm getting better at it, and I think with more practice, I will be able to probably complete this whole thing, including Thunder Blight Ganon. It's going to take a few tries to be able to do it, but it does seem very feasible to me that at some point I'll be able to do it. So, yeah, I guess we still don't know for sure that this route works, right? The durability might not be quite enough. If it isn't, there's a couple options. There's try and find some more weapons somewhere in Hyrule Castle. There's collect more arrows maybe from chests outside and try and deal damage that way. I hope I hope it doesn't require major rerouting, because I put a lot of work into this. But it was really fun to try and route this game without... I mean, I had help from Stockholder, and that was indispensable. But without like any guides, having to learn the game from scratch all the way, having to learn, kind of come up with strategies on my own, and with Stockholder's help. Yeah, so he makes that dling sound when you hit him. That's not really what it sounds like, but when you hit him and he's invulnerable, it makes a sound. Interestingly, I thought when you got the Master Sword, when I fought this guy the first time, I didn't have the Master Sword. I thought the Master Sword was required to kill him because I couldn't figure out how to deal any damage to him. I didn't realize that Flurry of Blows would hit him, so I thought the Master Sword would you know, cut through his invulnerability, because there's some hints that, you know, you kind of need the Master Sword to beat him. But it turns out the Master Sword is just like a really good sword. Mostly, it gets extra power in this fight, so it's definitely the fastest way of dealing damage. But you still have to use the same like flurry blow techniques and everything to actually deal damage. I think I got hit. Yeah, I got hit by that fireball, even though it looked like it was a billion miles away. So that fireball is definitely dangerous, and that is something I will need to learn how to dodge a little bit better. I think it's probably possible to consistently dodge it. But yeah, just like trying to figure out this game, how everything worked. It's very different from most Zelda games in a lot of ways. Very similar in some other ways. But trying to figure out how everything worked was a really fun challenge for me, and I went at it really hard. And I'm gonna keep going at it really hard to try and get some speedruns and figure out how to improve the time and all that. Well, first I have to get a time, or somebody has to get a time. But I'm a little sad that I wasn't able to finish a speedrun before the game came out and you know, get a free world record in a mainline Zelda game. That would have been nice to put on my resume. Former world record holder for a mainline Zelda game, because I'm sure somebody else will be much better at this game than I am. I'm not actually that skilled of a gamer. I'm just I have an analytical mind, and I got really caught in the game. But yeah, so sometimes you just have to wait for the attacks that you can actually parry with the Flurry Rush. Sometimes he doesn't do anything that you can actually counter. So, some of his attacks I haven't quite figured out how to counter yet. When he uses those big, giant, blue, glowy weapons, I'm not really sure how to counter those. The giant fire cleavers, in my opinion, there's two attacks with that, and both of them are relatively easy to parry. So those are I think the best sources of damage against Calamity Ganon, second phase. Yeah, that thing, I dodge it most of the time, the big ice spear. I dodge it most of the time, but sometimes it seems like it's just like tracking you and it's impossible to dodge. But obviously there's a way to do it consistently, so. This fireball, the best strategy I found again is going from one corner and then just kind of running towards Ganon. Even then, you just barely escape it when you run away, so it's tough. You can get in a little bit of damage this way. There's nothing else to do during this part, so might as well try, and he really can't hit you when you're that close with his blaster. Missed. But he also didn't hit me there. Yeah, that when he does that downward stroke with the cleaver, if you side hop too early, it's okay because you just dodge the hit. You don't get the flurry, but you dodge the hit. And so yeah, it's pretty safe to try and dodge that. And get in that flurry rush. I think running like slightly towards, like mostly to the side, but slightly towards Ganon is how you dodge that. You need to be sprinting when he starts throwing it, basically. I also try and stay near the center of the room when he's up on the wall. There's really nothing I can do to hit him while he's up there. So I try and stay in the center of the room because when he crawls around the edges of the room, he can go really fast. And so if you're near the center, you can kind of always be a good distance away. I got hit by the body slam. There's really not much else to say other than this is going to require a lot of practice. This is really the last hard part. There is another part of the game, and in this video I actually died there. But I I think it's very easy not to die there, so here I was giving a couple cutscenes, but we'll see the very last phase of Ganon. You just kind of like magically get given this light bow. This plot. I don't know. So there's one thing I'm not sure about, and that is you have this horse. Well, in this file at least, I have this horse that you get to fight Ganon on, and it's much easier to get around with the horse because you get to go really fast. I don't know if you get a horse in this fight if you didn't register a horse at some point during the game. So in this game, there isn't like a single horse. You basically have to capture and tame a wild horse. And so I don't know if you get to have a horse in this segment or not if you don't capture one and tame it. So I just tried doing it without the horse. It's pretty easy if you have it. There's really no danger other than Ganon has an attack that he shoots out in the front of him, but it's very easy to, especially if you're on a horse, to stay away from the front. So there's these big glowy things. You have to shoot them with the light bow, and it's generally pretty easy. Dark Beast Ganon can't shoot behind him, so I figured that was the safest place. But basically there's like 3 glowy things on the side, and then 3 glowing things on the side. Then there's a glowy thing on his belly, and then you have to like use the updraft from his attack to fly in the air and hit him for the final hits on the top of his head. So you'll see that. But yeah, you can actually run underneath him. It's pretty safe under here, except that he can move. He can kind of move his feet and crush you, and I think that would be game over if you only had 3 hearts. So you do have to watch out for that. He moves faster than you can run, but he also telegraphs his move pretty well, so if you just stay away from places where his feet can really land, I think you're okay. So yeah, so it's 3 on the side, 3 on the side, and then underneath. So at this point I just try to get behind him and run underneath so that I'd be ready to shoot his belly. But he did start turning. I'm not exactly sure. I haven't like played this a lot of times, this fight. I think I almost got crushed there by his feet, but I don't think this is very challenging. I have only died on this or taken damage on this like once ever, so, and it's in this video. But I definitely would have died. So okay, at this point I've done all the hits except for the very last hit. For the last hit, basically Ganon shoots the ground with his big laser thingy. You're supposed to ride the updraft, and then yeah, then you're good. So what I should have done here is stand still and wait for him to shoot and then move to the side. But he kind of predicts where you're going, so I like was running to the side and then he shot. Well, you'll see. I didn't do this very well, is the moral of the story. But yeah, I was running to the side, I didn't stop running to the side. But I kind of did anyway. If I turned around any earlier, I would have been fine. So a fairy revived me, and then I got the last hit in. Okay, so yeah, that kind of sucked. But it gives you an idea of the timing. That's the final hit. The game is over at this point. There's a cutscene. And then the credits. So that's the route. That's the whole route. This video is, I don't know, it's like an hour and a half, or at least the footage from this game is like an hour and a half. But that only includes half of the Calamity Ganon fights because I completed all those dungeons. So you have to add in some extra time for that. But I also like screwed up a lot of places and lost a lot of time just on stupid things. So I think an hour and a half is a pretty good estimate for how this route can be without any like optimization. By just doing this route and not really screwing it up, I think you can get about an hour and a half. That is my estimate. Yeah, I'm looking forward to speedrunning this, and again, check out my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/SethBling, if you're interested in seeing that, and you're watching this around when it was posted, because I'm probably speedrunning right now, as we speak, or at least have recently or something. Wow. That's a long time for me to go talking. An hour and a half. I'm not used to commentating something for that long. I appreciate anybody who stayed and watched the whole thing. I put a lot of work into this. Like I said, I've been like 12 hours a day last week. It's been pretty exhausting. I've forgotten to eat and forgotten to drink, and I'm like starving and I'm dying, and but it's been all worth it. It's been really fun to try and do this little challenge and see how good I could do in coming up with a route. So I think I have done it successfully. I like this little destroy Ganon quest complete thing. Anyway, there's some more cutscene. I'm not going to show it to you. That is the route. I'm really looking forward to seeing how people improve on it and how I can do and all that stuff. But yeah, well, that's about it. Thanks for watching.